Monica. Thank you so much for agreeing to be a part of my catch-up sessions. I know as the HRBP for Dunzo, you have an extremely busy schedule, and for you to actually agree to do this with me is such an honor to have you here with me.
Thank you so much, Maitri. This is definitely a great refreshment, and it was all mine.
I guess I'll just, to control my excitement, I'll just start off with my first question to you. So, Monica, as I observe, you're from a logistics company, and just out of curiosity, what is a logistics company in the time of a possible economic slowdown, which it's been speculated, anticipated that we might have an economic slowdown. So, in times like this, what does a logistics company who is in this particular space do to boost and make sure that the employee and the larger workforce morale is kept boosted? What do you think a company who is in this space would be doing?
Right. So I agree that there are a lot of concerns around the slowdown. We pretty much have the country on a lockdown. So yes, there are understandable repercussions that usually one can associate with something like this, right? But I think what it has also done is it has made our work a lot more relevant. It has made the delivering of essentials, the delivering of medicines. I think we've seen orders go up. We've seen orders shoot up in a matter of days. So I think for us, in terms of morale, although it is stressful, workload is definitely there. But I think end of day, it's all the stories, it's all the user love. It's being able to impact so many lives of merchants, partners, users. I think that has just kept us going. So for us, yeah, I think there hasn't been a better time for us to prove that as of these last few weeks. So in that sense, I think morale has been really great. Like I said, yes, there are times where it gets stressful and we're working a lot more than maybe one should be, but we have the results to see. And it's every time when we see all the partners out there doing these deliveries, all the users getting their essentials delivered day in, day out, and we continue to do that, lockdown or no lockdown, we don't have a lockdown in some sense.
That's amazing. And at the risk of sounding like an absolute fan, I guess for a brand which has managed to come up to the status of being a verb from being just an app in someone's phone, because I guess the most potent word which we all use is let's just Dunzo it. It's almost akin to Googling something. So when you have a brand which has what you call graduated to that stage, I guess employee morale and the workforce morale are at its all-time high right now. So definitely, it's slightly rhetoric in my part to add that one, but generally I guess for companies who are in the logistics space, they must be really having a good time around this time when they are actually, we were absolutely dependent on services like Dunzo or maybe a few other brands who are delivering things. I know I am personally dependent upon them to deliver stuff to my parents or to people who shouldn't be coming out of their house as often as they should be. So definitely, I guess employee morale will be at its all-time high. And since I don't think that these are the kind of businesses which are potentially recession-proof. I guess at least they have come to prove themselves to be not all that exposed to the economic slowdown, if at all we have it. Definitely there would be some businesses which definitely would be impacted because of the fact that we are in a lockdown, and that's going to be, from my humble observation, a short-term effect. But a brand like a company like yours and a brand which are in the same domain of logistics, I guess they are pretty much proved to be recession-proof at this point.
Yeah, so I think where I compete, whatever transaction, right? But I think some of the daily buying behavior will not really change. We will want those certain items every day, right? We do want those vegetables, we do want the dal and the rice and the milk, right? So these categories, we don't see a change in buying patterns. These are basic necessities which all of us will keep buying, right? And I think what we've just been able to do is helped with the physical distancing going on. I think we've just helped people to continue to maintain that, and been a bit seamless in terms of, they are able to get accessibility to their cities, their stores, but they are also being able to physically distance themselves. And I think that is where we feel very, very relevant in these times.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I guess the employee morale is boosted right there. And speaking in terms of employees, because now I'll build up to my next question. You would have observed that a lot of people around this time must have either lost their jobs or they must have resigned from their jobs on their own volition. Maybe in the month of Jan and February, March being the month where mostly people resign. As an HR, you would have definitely observed that, because that is the time when you have your hikes and stuff. So people definitely tend to resign around March. And this year also a few people must have followed suit and done the same. But sadly, the time that we are in right now, there has been a lot of hiring freezes, and a lot of people, whether not voluntarily or involuntarily, will have to be on a sabbatical. Now, on the topic of sabbatical, and I know you would definitely feel strongly about this, how much do you think a sabbatical will particularly impact a person's career or career growth in the long run? Or say, for example, in the next job that they are going to be striking, how do you think a sabbatical period like this, which a lot of us might find ourselves in currently, will affect the future career growth or future career opportunities?
So I would say that today sabbaticals are a lot more acceptable. Maybe 20 years back, when probably I think our parents could never think of taking a sabbatical, right? But I for a fact know that I have. And I do know peers who have taken sabbatical as well. And this could be for multiple reasons. I think we're also in a 1 year into our career, 2 years into our career. I mean, the growth and exposure and the learning that we have is so much more that probably the earlier generation, maybe it was equivalent to say 5 years of their growth. I don't know, this is not proven or there is no data, or it's purely anecdotal that I'm saying. But what I'm trying to say is that I feel we have a lot more going on. And to that extent, we would want to exhaustion or just wanting to switch off, right? Even with this whole work from home situation, we are working from home, we also have work for home. Where are the boundaries, right? So I think in a lot of these spaces, I think sabbaticals is a great way for people to recharge, to sort of reboot themselves. And I in fact feel that they come back with a lot more perspective and a lot more productivity. So I think it's up to organizations and people in organizations to view your glass empty, half empty or half full, right? If you really want to look at it from a perspective that, you've been Vela or you've been jobless for whatever time, and if you want to look at it from that perspective, I mean, sure. But beyond that, I think it's also a great way to understand how the person has utilized this time in the sabbatical. That can give you an insight into what are the other interests of the person, what are the other pursuits that do, and that can give you great insights to whatever organization you're building, right? So yeah, I mean, I think sabbaticals are not a big deal. I in fact feel that it should be incorporated in organizations a lot more. It could be shorter durations, it could be a fortnightly sabbatical or a monthly sabbatical. It doesn't need to be a 6 month, 1 year long kind of thing. These can also give people the liberty to pursue their small passions or whatever that they want to do, right? And I also think it could be a great retention tool in some sense. So yeah.
And I have something to add around build up on what you actually mentioned, and that is so very refreshing to hear. I feel that when a person goes or takes a deliberate break, maybe with the intention of rejoining the same organization or maybe exploring new opportunities, I feel that the time that you've taken for yourself should be accounted for. So essentially, because I am currently on a sabbatical myself, so what I essentially do is, it's not like I spend the entire day looking out for opportunities or thinking where will I find myself next. What I do is, I have a set pattern and a set regime and a routine which I follow. I get up, I study, because my subject and law is a subject where you need to constantly keep revamping, and it's a very dynamic field, but it's also very relevant to the laws which are already in existence. So what I do is I brush up on those skills. certificate courses I see are the new norm. So I feel a few certificate courses, particularly in the, I'm interested in technology law. So certificate courses on around that line actually helps. And I think potentially when the market properly opens up and when I have more conversation with HRs, hopefully they're as welcoming and as kind as you are. But when I do speak for it, as long as I'm able to account for the same time. And this is a conversation I've had with several other leadership people in the leadership role and people who are in the leadership, who have also advised that it's not the fact that you're in a break that's going to define or redefine your career. It's about how you utilize that break. Correct, Monica? I mean, that's what even you're saying, right? That when you are in the sabbatical,
absolutely.
You utilize the time accurately and properly, and I guess you'll be good to go. And the recharge does feel great.
Absolutely,
right? So moving on around the lines of employees and people, these are definitely times which at least my generation and our generation rather has not seen. These are definitely tougher times. I guess in the recent history, this is the toughest time, which I guess we will be talking about to our children and moving forward to our grandchildren, that there was a war happening. It was an invisible war, and we fought it by being in our houses. And definite tough times, because I see layoff news, I see people losing their jobs and things like that. So in tougher times like this, how do you think as an HR personnel, particularly as just an HR personnel, how do you think a company should be looking out or taking care of their employees, or what policies or what mechanisms should a company adopt for the employees who are currently in existence? Because everyone must be going through a kind of turmoil internally, people who are working. So I feel it's an onus upon the companies also to make sure that they're also relaxed. And who better than an HR personnel to actually tell? So if you could help me with your thoughts over there.
First is to have as much as possible personal check-ins, right? It could be 1v1, it could be group, just understanding what's going on, just checking in and understanding what do you need, any help, genuinely trying to understand what are the areas of help. Is it within work? Is it outside of work? How can, in some sense, this is a data gathering aspect as well, right? The only way HR professionals can really gather data is going out there and talking to our colleagues and people who work in the organization. So this gives us an insight into next steps, right? If there are people who would probably come out openly and say what are the areas that they need help in, right? It could be something very simple like just trying to manage time with this whole work from home scenario where, they are also working, but there is also a ton of chores that they need to do. So it could be as simple as just wanting 2 hours off where I'm not answerable to my colleagues or my managers that, hey, I don't want to keep requesting or asking for permission, right? Then how do you then build on that and just have a blanket 2-hour slots across the entire org saying that these 2 hours are your time off, please utilize this to get whatever stuff that you want to get done, right? So I'm just sort of giving an insight into how these problems could be very different to different people, but this was just an example to see how you can sort of tackle something like this. Secondly, I think you really over communicate, because this is the time where it would be a disaster if people are not hearing from you because they're just going on. I think silence is kind of disastrous. I think just the fact that you're communicating, it could be anything. It could just be about what your organization is doing for COVID, what are the initiatives, what are the next couple of months looking like. It could be very simple about just tips on mental health. It could be anything, right? But just constantly showing or being out there and saying that, hey, we are proactively communicating with their field kind of thing, right? I think if these two things are sort of in place, then it becomes a dialogue. I think what ends up happening is if it's just one-way communication, that's when probably there is a chance for people to be not heard, or there is ambiguity, there is anxiety. I think then channels and forums sort of open up, where people come forward and they're like, hey, why don't we try this? Or this is where I'm struggling, or these are my fears, right? And then those can then be picked up and addressed. So yeah, largely these are the two things I think that I would.
I think you very rightfully covered the two very basic aspects, which I think if even most companies do, it will actually really help employees to even feel a lot better. One is communication. Communication is definitely the key, and also the whole momentary check-ins, like how you're doing. I mean, is everything going fine? Because, and I think HR does that the best. Where mostly when we get an email for HR, at least from my personal experience, I am petrified. I get really scared. But sometimes when HR actually asks me, "How are you doing?" I mean, are things going fine? I do feel a sense of reassurance that yes, I mean my work in these times are being valued, and the fact that what I'm doing is actually something that's making a difference to the organization, and there is somebody to look out for me. So it's not just actually, I mean, it's not just about the economics and the tangible aspects of the work. It's also in these small little gestures which make it so relevant. And I guess that is the prime reason why all of us are missing being in a workplace. Though work from home seems nice as a stopgap, but we definitely do want to go back and have our interactions, have those breaks. And in my experience, I have had a lot of fun time. I've had fights with HR as well. I have not agreed with a lot of things HR has told me, or we have. I'm legal. HR has to fight. HR does fight with legal, but we also work in tandem with one another. So I'm definitely missing out on. I'm definitely missing out on those times. And yeah, I mean, it's very coming from an HR personnel and someone who's so adept and so passionate about a professional you are. It's so reassuring to hear your answer here. Okay, and moving on to my next question on this. Only share with me if you're absolutely comfortable with it. Let me know of one particular or any other professional experience that you have had so far in your career just particularly impacted you, or just particularly made your journey as an HR professional seem more fruitful, and it's actually, helped you grow so much better as a professional. If you have an experience, please share with me.
Sure. So I think with the profession that I'm in, and me also studying psychology, right? So I do have a psychology background, and having so much to do with just people. For me, I think connecting with people is a very important ability. It's something that I really value. The moment that I realized this value is when I think two experiences. One is where I volunteered an NGO called Make a Difference. So I used to teach at orphanages and shelter homes. This was during my college. Every Sunday I would go and teach these children, right? And they live a very different reality, right? Another experience was when I started off working in the logistics space. My very first role was to onboard and train a lot of these delivery partners. Both of them are different realities, right? It's not something that I was used to day in, day out, up till the point I was confronting these two realities. So yes, I was taken aback. Yes, I was nervous. Yes, I had a lot of fears. Yes, there was a lot of discomfort, and I was like, why am I doing this? Or do I have to do this? And a lot of these questions, right? But something along the way, I was like, let's see where this goes, right? But today, 5 years later, I think I am the most thankful for these two experiences, because it has elevated my ability to connect with people and being empathetic. And yeah, I think today I have no inhibitions in terms of going across and speaking to anybody, be it anybody, any place within the country, or anybody from any walk of life. Yeah, I think that's been pretty impactful.
Yeah, I was definitely sensing what you call a definite hold of psychology while speaking to you, because you do come across as somebody who's extremely empathetic of their larger employees' needs, and I think that is a definitive trait which I guess these are our personal experience which kind of mold us in the profession that we are in, and we don't realize often where something seemingly simple could have a long-standing impact. Now I keep telling myself that every other hardships I must have encountered in my career so far is going to be adding more material to the TED Talk which I have further in future. That's an aspiration I have to someday have my own TED Talk. I don't know when that day will come. I hope sooner than later. but yeah, so that's that. Moving on to my last question for you, Monica. So you see that these are going to also be times when people are going to be exploring new opportunities. They are going to be having interviews, they're going to be having more discussions, group discussions, and so on. And we are doing it in a newer format, which is the digital interview. And a lot of us are not very used to it. So, if you could help me understand, and just from your personal take on this as an HR professional, what do you think are a few definitive traits that you would see in a prospective candidate who you would want to work for you in the future, or any organization for that matter? But do let me know that which are the definitive traits which HR professionals and HR personals like yourself would look out for.
So I think just before I delve into the two traits, just a little background. So I think a lot of our work-life infrastructure, I think those will soon begin to, why soon? I think it already is pretty much sorted. You have your tools where you know where to put in your data or how do you document it. So a lot of the basic tools, infrastructures, documentation, your commute, your equipments that you use to work, all sorted, and technology in some sense is taking care of the efficiency of a lot of these things, right? So what this leaves us is a workplace where we will have to now deal with people and their emotions, and just I think people management is going to be a lot more in focus, and probably the only thing that will need skill in some sense, because for a lot of the other things there are tools, there are manuals, know how to understand a person or deal with a person, right? So I think I would come from a place where I would look at this aspect of a person. So I usually look at humility and empathy, right? I think these two are really important for me. So usually I look at how a person can be humble or empathetic, and how a person can deal with someone at various stages, work day or work life or walk of life. So yeah, I think these are the two things that I usually look for.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that those are extremely universal traits which people should have when they approach an organization. I guess largely one thing which a person should convey when they are is to bring their 100% and to bring their most authentic self to that interview. Because especially with HR, I've seen, though HR, like I've mentioned already, and I've also already mentioned that endlessly, are people who I'm extremely scared of. But I guess even they pick up on the most genuine traits that you bring to the table, that is empathy, humility, then your actual genuineness which you're bringing. I guess that because nobody really wants to work with somebody who's difficult or who comes across as extremely egoistic with the kind of work that they have done. So I guess the work speaks for itself, because the CV speaks for itself. The person did not have to, make an advertisement of themselves further, right? So I guess these are a few short techniques which, if people show it through their interactions, I guess they do stand a very high chance of nailing the job. With that, Monica, thank you so much for imparting this very insightful thoughts with people. I mean, more often than not, I'm sure I'm not the only one who's skeptical to approach HR for matters. But then this definitely moves that barrier from people to actually, speak to an HR of a company directly and see how they perceive a candidate, how they perceive a sabbatical. Because mostly people are really scared. If you've noticed right now, in the current scenario, people are worried. People haven't seen an environment situation like this. They don't know that if there's a gap in their CV, what do I say? Do I say I was washing my hands all this while because of COVID-19 and I couldn't really come up with any solution for that? Time it's unaccounted for. Or second, what do I say when I'm bringing my best foot forward in front of HR? How do I seem? Do I seem extremely overtly confident, though I'm absolutely nervous? Or do I seem like somebody who is speaking in the lines of nervousness, Monica? Do you think if somebody seems extremely nervous as a candidate while giving the interview, that can have a potential impact on them getting rejected from a job role?
So that if somebody is nervous, I think most people identify or recognize that, hey, this person is nervous. So logically, the next step should be to actually comfort the person and say that, hey, take your time. Maybe you want to just get comfortable and we can do this in 10 minutes. Or The only reason or the only space where I don't see something like this happening is in roles which will need stress handling, where it's actually a stress interview, right? That's a very different scenario. But when it's an interview to just gauge a person's culture fit, role fitment, largely HR interviews is where I'm coming in, right? I think logical next step would be to actually comfort the person, right? And ensure that at least you've voiced out that, hey, there is no need to be nervous here, and we're just sort of getting to know you and getting to know your strengths or passion that you have for being in this particular role or organization or whatever it is that you want to achieve in life, right? So yeah, I think that's more important. Yeah.
That definitely puts me at ease, because I tend to sometimes get very, very nervous when I'm put on the spot, or if I'm like speaking with an HR or someone like that. This generally happens to me once I've cleared a few rounds of the interview and I'm at the last stage. I'm like, oh my God, could I get rejected now because I seem so nervous? You're so near yet so far, and that whole thing starts to play with your head. So that's the only place. So, but then you answered it so beautifully for me, and I guess whoever is going to be listening to this particular clip of ours is definitely going to be agreeing that things do look they're a lot better than what we might assume in our minds, because all of us are guilty of overthinking at some point. We're all guilty of having certain anxiety pangs here and there, and to have somebody like you to come and share screen space with me and tell me that these are the things, how it works for, and you being an insider and you being in the in the role that I guess one of the most relevant roles which we people face during an interview, right? It really is very reassuring for you to take out time and actually speak to me. So I do not have words to thank you enough for coming in and agreeing to do this with me, Monica. This has been so kind of you and so sweet of you. And I hope and pray we get to have more sessions like this, and you had a good time speaking with me as I did with you. So
yeah, I mean, thank you so much. I think the honor is mine. I've had so much fun. This has been a welcome break from my usual humdrum of work life and domestic chores that's going on. So yeah, I should thank you. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you, Monica. And on that note, I think I'll be concluding the session.